Oh, hey, good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rebel Roundup. I'm your host I should check the mirror before I came on air. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and we are painfully live, a little bit late. I had a catastrophic computer reset, and I'm joined by my beautiful best friend, real life best friend from Regina, Saskatchewan, Lise Merle. Lise, how's it going?
Well, hello, Sheila Gunn Reid. Just when you least expect it, the tech demons will swoop in and
Yep.
try and stop your good work. And so they didn't get us today. They're not going to get us tomorrow. And you look great. It's
Oh,
fine. You
thanks.
survived.
You
Yeah, you
did.
came out the other end of your catastrophic tech meltdown. So it's great to see you, Canada. I can't wait to talk about the day's news.
Yeah, and there's a ton to get to, including Premier Ford being bad Premier Ford. I'm going to start something on my whiteboard that's just to the left off camera here. Good Doug, bad Doug, because I think we're back to bad Doug. He was good Doug the other day when he was roasting the Liberals about their gun grab right to their faces. Like he said, never give up your guns, don't turn them in. And Melanie Joly's like standing to his side, like, he's bad Doug again. But I'll tell everybody how they can get involved in the show, support our work here at Rebel News. So if you're watching us on Rumble, excellent free speech platform. If you want to have your say and support the work that we do here at Rebel News, might I suggest you leaving a Rumble rant? That's our paid chat over there. And if it's over the $5 US cutoff, it's obligatory. We're reading it on air. I can't go too late today. I've got a track meet to get to. And then if you are watching us on YouTube, same rules apply. Their paid chat is called Super Chat. And if you miss the live version of the show, but you just can't get enough of Sheila and Lise and you want to support us, you can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. So those are the rules. Let's get into the news. We'll get into the thing I just teased. Doug Ford. Doug Ford, of all people, has opinions. Bad Doug. This is bad Doug. He's got opinions on Alberta separation. And this is from the same press conference where he was good on gun rights. So like he'll be bad Doug, good Doug, like within the same 90 seconds. And so he's bringing it in for bad Doug.
I'm just asking, what do you think about Premier Danielle Smith moving ahead with a question on separatism in this fall's referendum?
Well, I'll go fast.
I'd never do it. Premier Smith knows how I feel. She wants to, I guess, protect her 30% base. It's not going to win, as far as I'm concerned. It'd be a disaster for Alberta to split away from our country. We have the greatest nation from coast to coast to coast.
Where?
I'm proud to be Canadian. Everyone in here is proud to be Canadian. And I would never do that. But then again, I'm not the Premier of Alberta. That's up to Premier Smith to decide. But I would never, ever put that poll to Ontarians.
Good to know, Doug. Thanks. So you're great with the status quo, cashing the checks and not doing any of the work.
Yeah,
Get out.
Who would have thunk
it? Yeah, who would have thunk it? Who would have thought that Ontario is happy with the current arrangement, would never ever propose anything different? Bad Doug.
Yeah.
Bad Doug. And Melanie, what's her name?
Melanie Joly.
Right, but with her smug face.
Yeah.
Looks like a pinched arse.
Yeah, look at that. Look at her.
Smug.
Yeah, Doug Ford, of course, the status quo is working for you. You're getting all kinds of federal money left and right. And that federal money largely comes from the backs of Alberta taxpayers. So yeah, of course you would never put that question to Ontarians. But go ahead.
Do talk about the misinformation that he spread there too, though. He quoted some 30% of her base.
I wrote it right down. Sir,
Thank
it's
you.
60. It's 60%, good sir.
In my head, I was telling you in my head, Sheila, quote the stat. Sheila, make sure we quote the stat after this and call Doug Ford out on his misinformation, because of course it is greater than 30%. Of course
it's greater than 30% of the UCP base. It's 60% of the UCP base, according to exclusive polling done on behalf of Act for Alberta. Full disclosure, I'm the point of contact there at that third-party advertiser. We hired a very reputable polling firm, Main Street, who they're polling from about, I'm going to say about a month ago. 60% of the UCP base is supportive of independence. And so when Danielle Smith says I'm a Federalist, she's actually butting heads with the base. So whatever Doug Ford is saying there when he's like, oh, she's doing this to please her base. No, she keeps saying she's a Federalist and her base is actually separatist. And that number holds true for federal conservative voters here in Alberta. It's about 55-60%. I forget the exact number. So it's a very mainstream position within the conservative movement. And it's because we've tried it the Federalist way over and over and over again, and it ain't working for us like it's working for Doug Ford. And she's not advancing separation. She's letting us eventually, because we're having a referendum on a referendum, which is it means that the separatists have to win twice. But she's actually just letting us have our say, which any politician who's confident and wants
to keep their job. Yes, and wants to keep their job. Exactly. She would be silly to say, I don't believe that the people of Alberta are smart enough to make their own decisions. Okay.
Which is what Doug Ford just said. I would never do that.
Doug Ford, that's a great point. Doug Ford just sort of in a very roundabout way said to the people of Ontario, I don't think you're smart enough to decide what's best for you. That's kind of what he just said. And is that acceptable for an elected official in this country? I would argue not.
No.
Bad Doug.
Bad Doug. That's bad Doug.
Bad Doug.
We're going to end up at the end of every week with more bad Dougs than good Dougs, for sure.
Okay.
And yeah, Albertans think that Alberta is the best place in this country. And I think the vast majority of us look at what's unfolding in places like the GTA and Toronto writ large, and we say, you know what? We're not going to wait till that is on our doorstep. We're going to deal with this before.
That's right. And after 120, what is it? 121
years? Yeah. 20 years. Yeah.
120 years. We've learned our lesson in that any agreement that we enter into with Ottawa is always makes us the losing it. We always get the shortest end of the stick. Always. Yeah. And so trying to work our way out of this and negotiate our way out of this hasn't proved fruitful for the people of the West, and we are insisting on looking at a different path.
Mark Carney has a bit of an internal revolt on his hands, and I think it couldn't happen to a nicer bunch. This is him reacting to 14 anonymous Liberal MPs demanding he halt the federal government's pipeline agreement with Alberta over, quote, environmental credibility concerns. And let's just be clear. It's an agreement to perhaps one day approve a pipeline that has not yet been proposed. So I just want to lay that out there. So it could be built by leprechauns. The unicorns will be welding on it, as in this is just fantasy.
Maybe someday pipeline. Okay.
Maybe someday.
A pipe dream. Maybe a pipe dream.
Maybe someday approval on an imaginary pipeline. Pipe dream.
Okay. That's what this means. Yeah, pipe dream. Let's listen.
Well, in a healthy caucus, you will always have an exchange of views, suggestions, and we have exchange of views of some members of the caucus perspectives. In April, of course, there's 160 other members of that caucus. We have to take decisions that are in the interests of the country, that reflect an agreement with the province of Alberta, the interests of British Columbia, the interests of Indigenous peoples, and also that looks at policy in its totality. And I mentioned in French the electricity strategy, which came out after that letter was sent, doubling our grid. We really underscored in that strategy the value of electrifying much of Canada, including obviously heating of homes and transportation, industrial production as well. Getting that right will have a huge impact on and a much bigger impact on our emission reduction. I would add as well our nature strategy, notre stratégie de la nature, $5 milliards, $5 million for a nature strategy, as well as one of the only G7 countries who's maintained its commitment, which we also did after that letter, maintained its commitment to international development finance. So you have to look at everything in the round. We do many things at the same time. We're moving forward on climate action. We're moving forward on making this country more affordable, the focus of today, and more sustainable and more prosperous for all. Thank you very much.
Those homes behind him cost more money because of green building codes, by
That's
the way.
right. Every single part of them. I was thinking the same thing with the Tyvek home wrap. Like, enough with the photo ops in front of the contrived. Like, how fast do you think this was slapped together, Sheila Gunn Reid? How fast do you think this was slapped together?
He wandered in front of an already in construction housing development
Called it there.
that was proposed before he was ever even considering running for the leader of the Liberal Party.
Okay.
It takes years to do that sort of stuff, to do the zoning, the subdividing, to finance that. And so this is not one of his fast-tracked things that he says
Like,
he's
with his
doing to
fake
put people in
background
front of
that he
homes.
made before? Okay,
Oh,
okay.
God.
But still, those homes do cost probably 40% more than they did 10 years ago because of crazy green initiatives.
And housing
Commitment to
pressures.
climate. That's yeah. Let's not forget those millions of extra people that we've invited into the country, which have pushed our most vulnerable into the streets. Let's not forget about that. But this is what we get. This is what we get for being committed to climate action and being committed to sustainability. Who got married to these ideas and didn't tell us? Because I don't recall saying yes to any of this. Any of it.
Well, and the question
Nature
at the
strategy.
beginning was 14 MPs are mad at you because you're not green enough. He
Thank
just
you.
sort of danced around that issue.
Thank you. Yes, he deflected, completely deflected. Yes, stayed
For
on
me,
his
I see
note.
that as you have 14 people in your caucus who are more radical than the guy who wrote values. That's a problem for the country. And then he goes on to
You're
say,
right.
you know, we're a caucus of diverse opinions. Are you? Because I feel like you believe the same thing on everything. Even Marilyn Gladu had to do the renunciation of her former pro-life beliefs.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? And yet, we'll talk about Marilyn Gladu a little bit later, but I think it was former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney who said the primary objective of the Prime Minister is to keep his caucus in line. Okay, you must have cohesion within a caucus to make a government work. And what we're hearing here is that Mark Carney's Liberal government has at least 14 people that are so upset about the West potentially being prosperous that they'd be willing to walk from the party. And you know what? Fair enough, guys. What we all experienced as a country when Mark Carney came in took us all by surprise. So I see this as the natural progression of what happened. They can't be happy, Sheila Gunn Reid, that the Liberals threw their doors open for Conservative Party members like Marilyn Gladu, like Matt Genereux, like the rest of them, right? They can't be happy with that because how dare you bring in terrible, awful, hateful, racist, homophobic, transphobic, conservative ideas into our safety bubble. So I don't think that this is surprising at all. I think that this is the natural progression of a man who built his government on being duplicitous. So guys, I'm delighted that they're upset. I hope they come out in public. I hope they put their names behind this. You know what I hope happens? I hope they walk away from the Liberal Party of Canada.
But they won't because these people aren't principled. They won't. They only walk towards power, never away from it.
If they were principled, they put their names to their complaints. They would put their names behind it and publicly have this debate. Because fair enough, if you feel like the Liberal Party has not been representing you or what you were elected for, then do the right thing. Walk away.
Right. But they won't. They'll just foment rumors in the media, and the media is happy to leave their names out of it.
Well, and it's crazy that this is even a story without their names on it. These are elected officials in Canada. This should be there should be no secrets between elected officials and the people that they are elected to govern. There should be no secrets. What do you mean you've signed a letter but then blurred your name out and you want to be all anonymous about it? You gave that up when you got elected. Do your friggin' jobs.
Yeah, right. Oh, you've got 14 MPs who are angry at the fact that there's an imaginary pipeline. You've got a problem in your caucus with environmental radicalism. And I think for Carney, it's not that they're environmental radicals. He was more than happy to sign their nomination papers.
Sure.
His problem is that they're talking about it.
Oh, like that the cone of silence has been broken?
Yep.
That would be pretty upsetting. That'd be pretty upsetting to the Mark Carney government because it's
Yep.
the first real, well, we'll say fake real, you know what I mean? Because it's because we don't know their names or who they are or what their arguments are, or what they're, you know, what they're even trying to advance here. But it's the first sign that all things aren't rosy over there in the government of Canada.
Right.
And
But
good.
don't worry, 14 cowards. That pipeline will never get built. So just chill out.
Sleep
I
well.
guess. Yeah, just chill out. Everything's fine. Now we do know one of the cowards. I think I probably am able to surmise a couple of more,
Yep.
but the one
Yeah.
is the one that we all know. I think it's Stephen Guilbeault,
Oh.
former environment minister, guy who oversaw the problems at Parks Canada that led to the Jasper fire, with a good chunk of the town burning down. The fire hydrants in the town were not fitted to access outside fire trucks from other municipalities that came flooding in. They declined.
That's actually, did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that? Stephen Guilbeault ordered fire hydrants for the national park that didn't connect to anything. That's what he did. He let the whole place burn to the ground.
Yeah, and then when outside professional firefighters with training in both urban settings but also with wildfires were deployed themselves, like companies said, "We'll come help.
We've got the guys and the equipment. Let's go."
Turn them away. And then when one of the resorts hired that same company to come in and protect the resort because they were not trusting Parks Canada firefighters to do it.
Yeah.
They were not allowed to pull water out of the river. And they couldn't hook to the fire hydrants.
Kind of makes it impossible to stop a fire then, doesn't it?
Yes. That's our environmentalist, former environment minister, Stephen Guilbeault. Anyways, Melanie Joly. Again. She was asked about the rumor of Stephen Guilbeault potentially quitting.
Stephen Guilbeault is considering resigning from the party over the climate policies. What do you have to say? Are you worried about losing more MPs because of the MOU with Alberta?
So I'm a good friend of Stephen. I've worked a lot to bring him in politics, and he will always be a good friend. I also think that I'm part of much more the environmentalist part of the Liberal Party and cabinet, but I also think that what we've done with the MOU makes sense. Because I also think that we need to be able to have one of the most important provinces that is the main energy producer in Canada part of our plan. And therefore, you can have the best plan possible. You need to make it work. You need to be pragmatic. We're also dealing with an energy crisis right now, which is affecting the gas of price across the country. Although, basically, things are happening thousands of kilometers from where we are. And so in these circumstances, we need to be able to protect our energy sovereignty and be able to support our allies. So we can do both. We can work on energy security, we can work on protecting the environment, and that's what we'll do in a very pragmatic way.
I have vertigo from watching her sway wildly back and forth. I don't that was crazy. But interesting admission there that they have responsibility for the gas prices. Now, she goes on to point that, there's the problem with the Strait of Hormuz without saying it, because I don't think she's bright enough to put the two issues together. But the government can do something about the price of fuel. Like half the price of fuel is gas taxes and other levies. You could do something about that. Federal government, provincial governments as well. You could, whether it's infrastructure or a lack thereof, driving up the cost of fuel. That is true. Or the problems in the Strait of Hormuz driving up the cost of fuel. Also true. But you know what? You could do something right now.
Well, they could have done something in the 70s and in the 90s, and when the Strait of, when the Arab nations, when the Gulf states get all upset and it becomes critical that the world still has fuel, we could have made those changes back in the 70s and the 90s and the early 2000s. We did not. I mean, they could have fixed it back then, but as is back then, there was an attack on Western energy. There was a concentrated attack on Western-made energy, and it was devalued on the world stage. Well, aren't we just still all paying the price for that? We could have had 40 years of affordable energy, affordable, reliable, easy to get at energy that gives all the people all the jobs. And people like that in Ottawa were like, we're going to taste something better.
No, because Alberta would get rich. They would have the rest of you. Think about this, Canadians. They currently, based on decisions of this federal government, they decided a long time ago that they would rather have you pay more for the essentials of life than have Albertans make money.
Yep. That's what happened since 1905, right from the very beginning. Yeah,
from the very beginning.
They feed the cow on the prairies and they milk it in the Laurentian Triangle, and that's the way it's always been.
Yep.
And we're looking for a new path forward.
Yes. We mentioned her earlier. This is the aforementioned lumbering woman of a floor crosser, just a trundling Bride of Frankenstein style woman. Marilyn Gladu. She admits to the backroom deal.
This is wild.
Now, I can't believe she took the backroom deal. If someone offered me that backroom deal, you know what I would have done? Gone public and blown it all up.
Instantaneously.
I would be running to the first television camera. You would see a cloud of smoke where I was standing Roadrunner style. And I would go directly to the first camera and start blabbing as fast as I can. But her, she's like, what are you offering? I'm listening.
I just think let's watch to see what she says, and then we can distill what we get from it.
So I was actually thinking of leaving politics because I had no expectation that the Liberals would take me. I mean, everyone who knows me
You were
knows.
kind of told that, weren't you, from even your own party?
For sure, because we were all looking around, looking at one another, trying to figure out who's the next one to cross the floor. And my whip talked to me, and I said, well, I've heard this rumor and that rumor, but all I know is it's not me. And he said, oh, well, we don't worry about you. They would never take you. So I was like, well, that's what I believed as well, that they would never take me. Because
you didn't take offense to that comment?
No, everybody knows I've been a conservative for 10 years, 4 times elected. I've said terrible things about the government for the last 10 years, so I didn't expect, honestly, that they would take me. And so one day I was talking to Evan Solomon. He's the minister in charge of federal economic development.
Okay.
And they had cut the funding for the riding by 50%. And they doubled the size of the riding. So I was on a begging mission, and I said, Evan, here's the great work that they've done with Community Futures. They've cut their funding. Do you think, you could look at, with your team, is there any way they could extend their funding? And he said, sure. When are you coming over? And I looked at him and I laughed. I said, well, I didn't get a call, and I don't expect I will.
Right.
And he said, would you like a call? And I said, well, I think that would be a discussion worth having. So at that point in time, like I said, I didn't have an expectation that they were going to be receptive to me coming over, and I didn't know what that would look like. It was the first time I had actually thought of it. So, we talked, and he talked about, the vision. Obviously, the Prime Minister has leveraged many of the conservative ideas into the platform, and so he's got this plan that is basically going to build Canada, nation-building projects.
What are those ideas that brought from conservative?
Yeah, so we were always talking about making Canada an energy superpower and building nation-building projects. So that is now one of our tenets. Diversifying our trade away from the U.S. I think that's an important one. Combating affordability, combating crime, and bolstering our defense, which has been very depleted over the years. So all of these things, I think, are things that Canadians in general would like, people in Sarnia, Lambton, Bikej, and Winong would like, and I personally support. So when he laid out that vision, he said, do you want to meet with the Prime Minister? So I was like, okay. So when I met with the Prime Minister...
Getting a little serious now.
It's getting serious. I said, well, thank you for the meeting, but I've said awful things about you and the party for the last 10 years, and I can't really fix that. And he was super gracious. He looked at me and he said, you know what, I'm not interested in the past. I'm interested in moving forward. We've got a critical moment for the country, and you know what our priorities are.
Unfriggin' believable. So, Sheila Gunn Reid, can we just start at the very beginning? She says that she was considering leaving politics. So she was in a place where she didn't feel like she was right. She didn't feel like she was in a place where she was able to do the things that she wanted, blah, blah, blah. So then she was asked about it by the Conservatives, and she cast suspicion on her fellow Conservatives by saying, I talked about who I suspected. So she literally threw the attention off of herself.
Yes.
Then, okay, this is the part that gets me nuts. She talked to her whip. Who's the whip? Who is it? I know his name. Chris something. Is it not? Is it not?
You keep talking.
Okay, so she says that she speaks to the Conservative whip, and he says they'd never take you. What the? Excuse me. This is relationship mismanagement.
Chris Workington.
To the absolute pinnacle. Okay, you lost her in that moment, Conservatives. You lost her in that moment. Because when Marilyn Gladu was feeling disillusioned with the whole entire thing, what she needed was a tiny bit of hope that she was still on the right track, that she was doing valuable work, that the Conservative Party valued what she was doing for them. And instead, you kicked open the door for a slime ball like Evan Solomon to come in and set a honeypot for poor, pathetic, desperate Marilyn Gladu to fall right into. I mean, that's all it took. That's all it took. They would never take you. That's all she needed to hear. As a woman, I'm telling you, that was the moment she was out. You disregarded her to her face, guys.
Well, I think she's a numbskull. Like she says, well, look at all these things that they promised to do. Yes, but they've been promising to do things for 11 years and have done absolutely nothing. They managed to make it worse. So she's a numbskull that fell for empty promises. She said they're making promises on affordability. Inflation is the highest it's been in years. Talking about making Canada an energy superpower. Where? We got a shovel in the ground somewhere, sister? Nothing. Talking about crime. Violent crime is way up, especially in the GTA.
Right. Exactly this. But in her own way, she sort of was admitting that the only way to get help for her riding was to become a Liberal, because it was just a sort of dead horse in the middle of a field otherwise. And so she said, to help my constituents, they offered me a better deal, and I took it. And I just think that this was mismanaged, and they never should have been able to catch 5 Conservatives. Okay, they never should have been able to.
But again, I think it speaks to the kind of person that she is, because when they said,
well, all of them, sure.
When they said,
yes.
Well, we'll have a talk. You want the money back when you coming across? I would have been like, you guys will never believe what Evan Solomon just said to me. That recording would not have, like, I would have had a recording. Nothing would have been said in confidence. I would have told everybody. I would have shown how slimy the Liberals are. And then you know what would have happened? All that money would have went back into your riding.
Right.
Lickety split, because you would be able to show that it was happening out of vindictiveness. And then she says, I said to the Prime Minister, I've said some mean things about you before. How do I take that back? I can never take that back. And he was so gracious to me. Again, total idiot. He wasn't being gracious.
Exactly. Placating her.
Opportunistic, because you're an idiot.
Yep. Agreed. He absolved her from her feeling of guilt to get her on board. But again, the Liberals cast a wide net, identified the vulnerable Conservatives, and then seized that opportunity. And that happens way too easily for my liking. Way too easily for my liking. In no way should we have lost 5 Conservatives to the Liberal Party of Canada after what they've done to us for the last 10 years. Okay? Never should have happened.
Yeah. All right. What's our next clip?
God, anyway, that's super telling. That's super telling. And it just I wonder if part of that isn't, like, it's pay for play. It's pay for play. You come join us, we'll give you a bag of money. Is that not somehow against the rules?
Also, this is also exactly what's happening to Alberta. She just explained it. She said
how you're lured in with offers of prosperity and money for your area.
That true, but we also know the punishment is happening. If you don't vote Liberal, we are going to punish you. Well, we don't vote Liberal, and guess what's happening to us?
Yeah.
We know, like, we intuitively know this. We see it through policy, we see it through action, we see it through empty promises. We see it in how they talk about us.
Yeah.
But she just said the thing. She just said, okay, if you want to be treated properly and as an equal Canadian citizen, you got to vote for us.
Years ago, there was a East Coast Liberal, I forget who she was, but she said, if you want more money, then you should vote more Liberals in, and this is all coming to pass.
Yeah. God. It's interesting to see her just admit it like that. It almost feels like a psyop.
I feel bad for her. I really feel bad for her.
I don't. Like
pathetic. Like I have cringe. You know what I mean? Like I do. I'm like, oh God, Marilyn, you really.
She thinks this looks good. She thinks this makes it look like she was willing to throw herself on the pyre of liberalism on behalf of her constituents that she was going to retire from next time around. Like she was done with them. They were done with her. But she's, look at me. I am willing to do anything for you people. That's what she thinks it looks that we're coming away from that looking like. For me, it just looks like she's an opportunistic idiot who is taken advantage of by a smarter, opportunistic man.
Well, and that's just another part of it that's so interesting is all of the people that walked have several successful conservative election. Like she has 4. She was elected 4 times. And so that shows the frailty of the relationships in Ottawa proper. Listen, if you've got people that are being elected 3 and 4 times walking away from the party that they've been involved with for 10 or 15 or 20 years, that's real problematic. That's real problematic. And I maintain that there are issues within the Conservative Party that need to be dealt with. So
I think she was one of them, though.
Yeah.
Looking at that, and I think she's one of them. Man, that woman's got an ego on her.
Ooh, just wildly disconnected. I feel like it's actually like peak level cringe that all it took was one conversation from like
with Evan Solomon of all people.
Yes, fell for it. Just fell for it.
I don't know if we can bring it up, but Evan Solomon accidentally retweeted Guillaume, our videographer who works with Alexa. He's got a video going viral. You can find it on my page, Olivia or Efron, whoever's going to board today.
Wasn't he also the guy that tweeted the R word bus? Yeah. Do you remember there was a meme with like
he ain't a bright dude. He ain't a bright dude, and that's it. That's the Einstein that convinced Marilyn Gladu to cross the floor. The guy's as dumb as a sack of hammers.
A broken clock is right twice a day. And look, here's Evan Solomon.
Sort of. Guillaume puts this video of a pro-Hamas group, Montreal for Palestine, displays the Canadians flag. Canadians, not Canadian flag, next to what appears to be an effigy of a Jew wearing a kippah hanged with a rope. This is on the streets of Montreal.
Oh, God.
Evan Solomon responds to this Rebel News employee and says, hey, I don't think he clicked on to see where Guillaume works, even though it has the little Rebel News badge there.
Besides... Hey, can I get one of those badges? I want one of those badges.
All right.
Badges. Okay, thanks.
So, anyways,
he didn't do his research.
Hatred and anti-Semitism have no place in Canada. The display of a Jewish person in effigy is vile, deeply disturbing, clear act of hate. This incident must be taken seriously and investigated by the appropriate authorities. To Jewish Canadians, you're not alone. We stand with you. We'll always defend the safety, dignity, and belonging of every community in Canada. Do we have my reply to him? It doesn't matter. I just said, Evan, I hope you find the people who've been in charge these last 11 years.
Exactly this. We will always stand against the thing that we are currently standing for.
Yeah, I hope you find out who's in charge of this country so they can do something about it. It's gone on too long.
Oh, but to our Guillaume, what a good boy. What an absolute gem of a boy. Yeah.
The next story, and then I think maybe we'll hit an ad break. Majority of MPs vote down, in case you wonder where this is going, in your province, people, majority of MPs vote down Conservative motion calling for private property protection. And the majority of the House of Commons, and it's a non-binding vote, but it would have meant a lot to homeowners in the Lower Mainland of British Columbia. A majority of the House of Commons voted against a non-binding motion on Monday that called on the federal government to protect private property from First Nations land claims.
And look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this, guys. They're like, actually.
If we roll down, I wanted, just so that you realize where CTV lands on this issue, they're not straight shooters. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and his party have seized upon the uncertainty created by the decision and have for weeks been calling on the federal government to take action. So it's interesting that they say they're seizing on it for political reasons instead of, won't somebody help these homeowners? Like, won't somebody?
Won't somebody pay attention to what's happening here in BC?
Yeah.
And even that, they accused him of seizing the opportunity, but this has been an ongoing issue for at least the last, like a real burning issue for what, 6 months, Sheila, we've been talking about this? Oh, longer. Like, think of how long Dallas Brody and One BC have been talking about this 2 years. And so he's seizing upon an opportunity that's been there for several years and talking about things in British Columbia that are important to the people of British Columbia. That's what he's doing. But I do think it's staggering that our federal government is like, no, you know what? We're going to put private property on the table to be adjudicated by our judiciary.
Yeah, good luck with your mortgage or leaving your property in your will to your kids. Good luck with that.
Because these two ideas are completely, like, they're at loggerheads. So you have on one side Aboriginal land claim, and on the other side you have private property rights. Both of those issues profess to have exclusive right to use the property. So is it like, which is it? This to me is an absolute easy answer. You got a deed to your property, it's yours. Enjoy it at your leisure. Nobody can use it without your permission. And yet that's exactly the opposite of what our government is doing here. Like, it's just wild.
Yes. Let's hit an ad break and come back and talk about this story from CTV about warning the Prime Minister of public anxiety about mental health after the BC shootings. It's quite something where they tried to direct the focus because people were starting to catch on, and the memo was warning the Prime Minister, oh, no, go talk about this stuff because people are catching on about this other issue.
Really?
Yeah. Let's hit an ad break. We'll come right back.
Canada's been told to just quit smoking for decades, same message over and over, and yet millions of Canadians still smoke. So let's ask a follow-up question. For those who don't quit, what about change? In 2026, Canada has options that didn't exist years ago. Smoke-free alternatives for adults who would otherwise continue smoking. That doesn't mean risk-free, it means informed choice. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you smoke, quit. But for those who don't quit, change could still be part of the conversation. That's why Canadians should check out unsmoke.ca, an information resource focused on smoke-free alternatives and honest facts, not judgment. Put the lighter down, Canada. Learn what your options are.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Byrna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's BYRNA.ca/rebel.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
All right, we got a quick ad read from our friends at Rumble Wallet. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Okay, I'm going to be honest. There's a lot I miss when it comes to crypto. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money after the 2008 financial crisis. Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer declare, you've felt that problem. Now fast forward to today. Everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's one way of putting it. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all the complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. And once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code right there, and click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Again, that's from our friends at Rumble Wallet, wallet.rumble.com. All right. This, I think this first broke in Blacklocks. And I don't know if I wouldn't leave it to the mainstream media to properly credit them anyways, but 3 days after the February mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC, government officials warned Prime Minister Mark Carney that online sentiment was shifting from collective grief toward emerging accountability narratives, including questions about mental health intervention, access to firearms in that home, and whether warning signs were missed. Now, I think I read the Blacklocks version, and it directly addressed anti-trans sentiment.
Like the humongous elephant in the room that's never ever been addressed. As a matter of fact, municipalities across the country are now raising the same flag that represented the Tumbler Ridge shooter. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Like, nobody put that together. We put that together really, really quick. You can't lead a kid into lies his entire life and think that all of that truth ain't going to come out in the wash. And it did. It did.
Right.
You know what's so maddening about it is I saw, like, right after the event, I was like, oh, here comes the liberal hype machine to whitewash this entire thing and absolve them from their own responsibilities. They come in for the photo ops. They take the crying photos. They let a whole bunch of announcements out the door. They say, we're committed to making things right for the community of Tumbler Ridge who has experienced this. And I said, here comes their new rink. Somebody says to me on the internet, claps back, they already have a really nice rink in Tumbler Ridge. I was like, it will be a community center. It will be a new school. It will be, well, guess what? Yeah, they're getting a new school in Tumbler Ridge. So for their loss, for their extraordinary loss, they get a new school and a selfie station for the Prime Minister in front of their old school.
So directly from this briefing note, it says early signs of polarization are emerging, particularly on social media, where identity-related narratives, policy debates, and misinformation are beginning to fragment public discourse. Let's scroll down. Families and observers have raised concerns about whether early warning signs were missed. So
they weren't missed. They were embraced.
Right.
They were embraced. We saw the pride flag in the window as they were marching kids out under police escort.
Right.
They weren't. The warning signs weren't missed. They were embraced.
It also says it described the sentiment about possible systemic failures as emotional, but analytical. And said it was often directed at institutions such as law enforcement and regulators. Yeah. Why did that family have firearms in the home given the amount of points of contact from police? And that the shooter tried to burn the house down
right, in the months previous. That's exactly right.
It gets worse. The memo also warned that social media was revealing polarization tied to the shooter's identity, including hostile exchanges between ideological groups. Quote, false claims and misinformation involving transgender violence have circulated online. It's not false. It's not false. It's factual. How many trans identified individuals have to shoot up schools?
Well, and this is coming from, okay, this is just another great example of why you can't trust the mainstream media, because they're the ones that were referring to the shooter as a she the whole time. Okay, the people on the social media sites were the ones that were accurately and truthfully describing the shooter as male. So no, CTV, you don't get to accuse us of misinformation for accurately reporting what happened.
And then it says,
unreal.
False claims and misinformation involving transgender violence have circulated online. Again, not false. Media reporting confirms social media narratives fueling anti-trans violence or anti-trans rhetoric. Again, it's the most important part of the story, I think.
Listen, so trans people's own narratives are what are fueling anti-trans rhetoric. That's it.
So my concern is the Prime Minister saw this memo, saw people were cutting through the BS that they were being fed. They were asking questions about why firearms were left in that home or why the shooter had access to firearms. Yes, the shooter, maybe the shooter didn't have the firearms, but they're still in the home, and given the home situation, they probably shouldn't have, no, not probably, definitely shouldn't have been there. I'm a licensed firearms owner. If I were having those problems in my home, my firearms would be somewhere else, 100%. Just for safety of myself and the community. And so when people started asking questions about that stuff and, oh, another trans shooter at a school, what's going on here? What did the government immediately pivot to? Who was the bad guy here? Not the cops, not even the trans shooter,
it was
not the trans industry. ChatGPT. They got this and said, we need to point this somewhere else.
It's exactly right. And so then they pull in ChatGPT into Ottawa to undergo some sort of, I don't know,
struggle session.
A struggle session about who was ultimately responsible, because ChatGPT did sort of allude to the fact that the shooter's online chats were alarming, and they made the decision, or made the call. The call was made not to inform law enforcement. Now, listen, I think that there's an argument to be made that even if they had contacted law enforcement, nothing would have changed. Okay, nothing would have changed, because this was already a family that was fully immersed in law enforcement, social work, all of the supports, all of the things. I don't think that it would have changed it at all. But is it surprising that the Liberal Party of Canada would choose to absolve themselves because they created this issue? Let's not forget, they created this issue. All of it, actually. Are we surprised that they would absolve themselves of any responsibility? Of course not. This is what they're expert at, is taking a story and butchering it to the point that the public doesn't know what to believe. This is another great example. Well, a CTV, well done.
And I like how the Prime Minister is getting memos on issues management that basically tell him to divert from the truth.
Right. That's exactly
right. Like, he's not managing the issues
at
hand, but how do we pivot away from what the real issues are and then misinform the public?
You know, how inconvenient would it have been for Mark Carney, though, parents of a gender non-conforming child, to admit that something like this had gone terribly wrong, and that this was this definitely contributed to it. It wasn't going to happen in a million years, and it's not going to happen so long as Mark Carney is Prime Minister of Canada. We are going to continue sweeping these things under the rug, and they're going to continue to happen, sadly.
Except I think the Liberals might be getting mugged by reality sooner rather than later. We've got this story here from the National Post. Immigrants less likely to support freedom of gender expression than people born in Canada, according to StatsCan. The majority of Canadians think that individuals should be able to express their gender however they choose. You know what?
Absolutely not.
I don't care as long as it doesn't affect me. Like, don't be in my bathroom. stuff like that. Like,
but it always affects women. Here's the crazy thing. It always affects women. It crazily over disproportionately affects women and girls. So if Canadians were asked that question, do you believe that women and girls should be, exposed to the worst males who would be willing to violate their boundaries? I bet Canadians would answer no. But because it was framed like they should be able to their gender. Oh, of course, stupid Canadians that have been, brainwashed by the mainstream media. Of course, they would answer that question like that. But the truth is, public sentiment has changed over the last number of years because we won't stop telling these stories. We know that gender expression and gender identity, as it's protected under law in Canada, has had disastrous consequences, not just for women, but especially for children. And the faster that we can unwind this all of the way back to reality, where we have two sexes, male and female, and that's it, the better off we'll all be.
Yeah, I
but
think
right now, we're just contributing to the lie more.
Yeah, that's one of the things Matt Walsh always talks about is like, look, I deal in reality and don't ask me to participate in a delusion. Like, just don't ask me to. But I think the good news for people, and it's like a delightful, spicy irony, is that the Liberals' out of control immigration, importing, much of the developing world, they're on a collision course with progressive liberalism. And I can't wait to see everybody fight it out while I stand on the sidelines, enjoying it all.
Me too. Just get me a white wine spritzer.
Right. I'll be there drinking a Michelob Ultra, leaning on the wall, watching everybody fight it out. This story is horrific, but then we'll finish on the Daily Delight. And the things we missed, we can move ahead for tomorrow. Ontario man dies of MAID after being assessed outside of a Tim Hortons. This is the most Canadian story ever written.
Say it again? What? What happened here?
Man dies of MAID after being assessed outside of a Tim Hortons. In a second case, yes, I'm not making that up, a second case, the same doctor failed to administer one of 3 drugs used in assisted deaths, and the patient resumed spontaneously breathing after being pronounced dead. Down at the Timmy's, he was assessed.
Wow. At the Tim Hortons, drive-through MAID. Drive-through MAID. That's where we're at in Canada. Unreal.
Just to further drive home just how abominably Canadian this is.
He had IBS. Inflammatory bowel disease, IBS, yes, and a history of mental health issues outside a Tim Hortons location, then personally drove him to what? An abattoir?
No, it was at his home. It was at his home. So he assessed him down at the Timmy's, said, yeah, you know what? You have a bad tummy and you're feeling sad. So let's get you on the next trip back to Jesus. Then he goes to the guy's home, fails to administer one of the 3 drugs. Like, it's a 3-step process. How do you miss? Like, it's not like a 12-step process and you only do 11. There are 3. That's it. So the patient resumed breathing after he was pronounced dead by the doctor and after the doctor had left the guy's house. So the family is there and he's like, be terrified. Like, this is a horrific story. This is such a Canadian hellhole story, though.
Yep, 100%. That's where we're at, guys. Drive-through MAID in the Tim's parking lot.
Yeah. Sickening. Okay, let's end on the Daily Delight.
Oh, you guys.
You set it up.
I cannot wait for you guys to meet this kid. I met him last fall with his dad on the side of a highway in Saskatchewan, and within 3 seconds, he started this 9-year-old boy.
And we have his parents' permission.
That's right.
So, yeah,
we have their permission. Yeah, his dad is a real Rebel News fan. Listens to the news with his kids every single day. And this kid opens his mouth, and I said, buddy, hold that thought and let's save this magic for the television. So everybody, I want you to meet Odin.
My name is Odin. I am 9 years old from Canada, BC.
It's good to meet you, buddy. I was wondering if you have anything to say to Mark Carney, our Prime Minister.
He is a very, very bad person. I think he's 10 times worse than Trudeau. And he's because he sends billions of dollars to other countries when they can't just work for themselves. There's even Canadians sleeping. There's like military people sleeping in construction workers' cars, and people are living in tents, campers, and because they can't afford to live in houses. Like, prices are going up and things are very expensive.
You are very right, honey. Do you think that, one more question, do you think that Saskatchewan should stay in Canada?
I think no, I think it should go to the U.S.
Okay, that kid's smarter than Marilyn Gladue.
Isn't he something? And he had an opinion about absolutely everything.
Love it.
This is raising your kids right. We want our kids to be engaged on a civic level. We want them to understand how decisions made on government levels impact us. And here's a 9-year-old that has just such a wonderful grasp of this. I see nothing but bright stars in his future. And Odin was just such a delight. So thank you for allowing me to introduce him to you, Canada. If you could send Odin some love, I'd sure appreciate it, because as you can imagine, some liberals who are possibly the most hateful, vile, awful people on earth also saw that video and had some pretty unkind things to say. So if we could just love on Odin a little bit, he's the exact kind of kid that parents should be proud to be raising, and his dad is. So
yeah, I'm not taking advice from the liberals on kids when they are transing their kids and giving their kids climate anxiety. This kid's got it all figured out.
Yeah, he was just a delight, just like an absolute go-getter, just a personality, and he's a real star. So Odin, thanks so much for the interview. I told you the world would love you, and they definitely do. So to Odin and his dad, thanks so much.
Kids are going to be all right, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too.
All right, I think we have one chat that I missed. Independent Alberta gives us $5. Hey, Lise, you'll be happy to know we put up a Saskatchewan flag beside our Alberta one. Let's effing go.
Oh, buddy, so awesome. I got it when I'm in Alberta this weekend. I got to get an Alberta flag. I might take Sheila's. Like
I've got several. I have several.
So I could do the Saski and the Alberta flag while we're tootling this summer. So great. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for including Saskatchewan.
All right, guys, that's the show for today. Tomorrow is Western Wednesdays. It's the Buffalo panel. I don't know who our panelists or panelist is or are yet. But as always, the show's great. Why? Because I'm hosting with my best friend, Lise Merle. So we'll see you back here, everybody, tomorrow. And you know what? Lise, you can do a couple of thank yous.
What are we talking about? Sorry. What? Sorry.
You zoned out. You're like,
I was waiting for you to get. No, I wasn't expecting it. You always do the extras. I was just waiting.
No, I was just I know.
Oh, you want me to thank our people?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to everybody in our control room and everybody at Rebel News HQ, thank you so much for all of the hard work you do in pulling this show together in such a spectacular way every day. Sheila, Gunn, Reid, you are always a delight every single day. Hardest working journalist in the nation, bar none. And to our viewers, thanks so much for joining us today and for being on this adventure with us. We appreciate you very much. Sheila, Gunn, Reid, get us out with our quote.
Yes. See, that was worth the wait. As we always say on the show here, if you find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all.
This year, the official opposition selected the Minister of Immigration to be held to account as part of Parliament's scrutiny of the government's financial plans. This process, which is referred to as the Committee of the Whole, is scheduled for Thursday night and would see the minister be questioned by MPs. The Minister of Finance has committed to showing up for his full session, but to date, Lina Diab has not confirmed that she will attend or will attend the full 4 hours as she's required to do. So everyone knows that Lina Diab will eventually have to be fired because of her incompetence, but if she's so bad that the Prime Minister's office doesn't think that she can be questioned about her department's work, as is required by parliamentary procedure, then the Prime Minister needs to immediately fire her and replace her with someone who will. It's absolutely mind-boggling that the person in charge of one of the most critical files of the federal government, who gets paid $300,000 and has a taxpayer-funded driver, can't be bothered to show up for work. It's an embarrassing stain on the Prime Minister's reputation that he's getting away with this. And I understand why she doesn't want to come to work. In the last 2 weeks, I mean, there's been dozens of stories on, the immigration dumpster fire. I'm looking at non-citizens who have been given lenient sentences so that they can avoid deportation, mass uncovering of like basically malpractice within her department. The terrorists are still here, limited removals, questionable guidance being issued out of an agency that she's responsible for. So she needs to show up for work. And so we're calling on her to do that. And if the minister won't show up for work on Thursday, like seriously, the finance minister is showing up. Why can't she? I know she's terrible. But at this point, if a minister can't show up to answer questions in the House, given her track record, the Prime Minister needs to fire her. He needs to fire her anyways, but before Thursday would be nice.